Back to Beyond the Track, another episode coming at you today. This one's going to be a good one. I want to welcome everybody who is tuning in. Don't forget, you can go to the YouTube channel for Supercross Live. You can go to supercrosslive.com, also to the Instagram for Supercross Live to check out more of these episodes. Super pumped about today's because it's Ryan Dungey who's on the line. I got a lot I want to talk to Ryan about, of course, some racing stuff inside his career, but mostly what he's doing now. So Ryan, first off, welcome to the show. And I guess my first question is, what do you got going? What do you don't have going on, dude? You're as busy as ever. I just saw you in Orlando. You were at the Fight Club. I know you're still involved with St. Jude intimately. Of course, RD Coffee. What are you not doing? What are you not doing?
Well, I'm not doing probably, I would say, as much as around the dirt bike world. You know, my background, right? Racing every single week and seeing everybody at the track. I did make it to Orlando, which was pretty cool. Just to see everybody there, and then got to, me and my wife and we brought our little daughter Harper down to Florida, did the whole trip, checked out Disney World, got to check out the race, and then visit some old friends. We lived in Claremont there for a while, so we got to catch up with a lot of people, which was cool. But yeah, just all good things, really. Like you said, I got the coffee thing going, and that's been a lot of fun, a new venture of mine. We're still very much involved with St. Jude, and I've got some, still involved with Intense Bicycles, and and then raising up our little daughter Harper is an awesome, experience as well. It's been nice. We've been able to spend a lot of good time together, just being around her and watching her grow, and just, it's as a dad, right. It's amazing. So it's, very, very fortunate. Yeah.
Think about your racing career and all the highlights you had, those big moments. They don't even compare to like the first step, the first word. Like to me, that stuff was like 100 times cooler than anything I've ever done in my life ever. And all it is like the simplest thing is like a first step. It's how weird is that if everything that you've done and everything, all the success you've had, these big moments, they don't compare to those little things like that, right?
No, it really doesn't. It kind of makes you think when you were like 16 or 17, how important winning a race was to you, or things that were important at that time. And then now looking back, the perspective you have, and, what's really important, right? Like this is, it's your job to raise this girl up right, raise your kids up right. And, making sure she, is well disciplined and that she understands. But it's a whole new experience, but it's something that long term is super important. It matters. So it's pretty amazing, unreal.
Now, when we were in Orlando, of course, got to hang with you. We had some goofy weather. Came in hot, then it was nice, then it was, it was all over the place, but a little better than it was back at home at that time, right? I think you guys got away from, it was in the negatives, right? You guys were at -0.
Yeah, it was -20. That's when I was looking at the weather, that's what it was. The highs were in the negatives too. It was really cold, and it's kind of funny. For about a month, me and my wife were chatting, like, this is probably back in November, December. We started talking about this, like, we need to do a trip this year. We need to go to Florida. Harper, we were going to do it last year, and then COVID hit, so we didn't go anywhere. But it was our first. We're kind of like, as it's like our first big trip, and Harper's never been on a plane. She's been on a schedule. She's been on a routine. We don't want to upset that. So I think we kind of just hemmed and hawed over it for a while. But then when we saw how for the next 10 days, how in the negatives it was going to be, how cold it was going to be. And I thought, like, wow, we're going to be inside. Harper's going to be inside. People are probably going to watch this and think, what are you living there for? But it's not that cold all the time. It just was that week. And so, that's when it was like Sunday, we pulled the trigger and flew out Wednesday, and it actually worked out good. It was a great experience. Harper did good. And I'm really glad we made it happen. So that sunshine feels good.
It was good for us too, because obviously we had you on race day live. So it's good to see you back at the track, and watching these guys ride and race, and just get to hear your perspective on everything. And I guess before we get into your life right now beyond the track, I guess just an initial thought on this championship that we're in. It's been a fun one, but it seems weird, right? We had 8 races in 6 weekends. To me, it was almost a blur. And I'm like, all of a sudden you kind of wake up and you're like, well, we're halfway through this thing. But just your perspective. Kenny obviously found his groove. Cooper's doing his thing, which you know how he is. And then
Mm-hmm.
Eli, a little weird this year, a little off, but overall pretty fun season to start this thing.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to watch. I mean, even from when I watched the race day live and how close everybody is in the practice time, I think that was what kind of surprised me a little bit initially. But it always seemed like after that first race and as the races go on, it seems like those few guys start to kind of, the cream rises to the top, right? So, you got Kenny and he's won multiple races. Now Cooper's kind of getting on a roll. And, it's cool to see Kenny. I think it's hard not to be a fan of what he's been through. I mean, he's been through a lot, and it seems like he really took the steps this year to get mentally prepared, gave his body a rest, and came out swinging, which was cool. He's been consistent, hasn't been frazzled by a lot of the things that would normally probably razzle him a little bit. But I think, even in Orlando, now Cooper's on a roll. He got a couple race wins there, closed the points gap. But I honestly, there's no predicting the future, right? Anything can happen. But I think between those two, I mean, they're going to put up a fight all season. And I don't really sense Kenny's too, I don't think he's too rattled by the whole couple races. I think I think he played it kind of safe a little bit, those two races. But Cooper, you just got to be careful because he's kind of the silent attacker at the end of the race and even in a championship as well. And I am surprised that there aren't a few more guys kind of, like Eli, and it seems like he needs to just get a start, really. But there's a lot of good guys out there for sure. And
it's stacked through. I mean, you see like an Anderson, and Jason very well, Marvin. You'll see them like with an 8th or a 9th or a 10th, and you're thinking like, how does that even happen? But then there's just like Ferrandis and Oz. There's so many guys that, like you said, if you get a good start and you're up there, you can be 3rd, and then you could be 10th the next one. And maybe you rode better with the 10th than the 3rd, right. But it's where you started. And it's just weird right now how that's crazy. I guess my question for you is, can you watch the races as a fan, or are you still like watching it as a racer where you're like, no, you know what I mean? Like that racer brain that you had for so long where everything was so racing. Can you enjoy it as a fan, or can you not shut it off?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get to enjoy both sides, right? Because one, it's it's exciting to watch. The more I'm removed from racing, the more I'm excited. Like, hey, it's Saturday night. Like tomorrow night, I'm looking forward to watching the race. And so I like that aspect of it, and just it being on. And not to mention, they're racing 3 weeks in a row, so we get a lot of 3 races in 1 week. So we get a lot of time to watch these guys, which is fun from a fan's perspective. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I still sit there as a rider, and you can say, oh man, I would have done this different and that different. But in the moment, these guys are going through so much, and there's a lot coming at them in a little bit. But yeah, I like to dissect it, and from what I've learned, and like, hey, what not to do, what to do. But more than ever, I think at the very basis of it all, it's a start. You need a start, and it's track positioning. If you're not going to be up, if like, and Eli said it, like if you're not going to be there in the beginning, it's going to be hard to, we've seen guys get bad starts, right? And they've come to like 5th or 4th. Like that's kind of the maximum they can get up to, where before they were maybe coming through to get a race win. Yeah. Eli was, at least, but it's track positioning. You've got to be there right off the start at the beginning of the race, because it's just going to make your life a lot easier. And looking at it, if I had to pick one person, Ken, he's just been consistently up there in the starts, and you're away from all the carnage, you're away from the guys slowing you down, right? And you're just going to be there, and there's less chances for error, and you can ride your own race and have clean air.
Crazy, man. You see these guys who can go 3-10 2 weeks in a row. It's fun to watch. It makes things very fun to watch. Let's go beyond the track now. This is going to be fun. I want to talk to you about a lot of different things. And I guess my first question for this would be, you get done racing and you've had this lifestyle, right? It's an intense lifestyle. You're so driven, you're focused. Every minute is all about, what's coming up, what's next, what happened. Then you get done with racing, and it's like you try to shut the switch off, and I know you just can't. You've lived a life of chase, and now here you are again with all these different ventures. Of course, St. Jude started before, it's kind of bridged through, but now with your coffee, with Intense, Is that just because, again, as a human being, you've lived so long chasing that when you tried to shut the switch off, you just can't. So now you turn it back on. You're going more business. I know you have obviously interested in the business side of the world. Is it one of those things where, again, it's just hard to shut the switch off, and you're too young to retire? So it's like you have to go out something next, and you chose business as what you wanted to do. But is it because of that, just that lifestyle of always being on the chase and not being able to shut it off and just sit back and drink margaritas? I mean, there's just no way, right?
No. Well, it was wide open. As you know, like that sport, it's like it consumes your life. I mean, it takes over your thinking, your days, your training. I mean, it is like if you're not training, you're resting, and it's just like you're constantly thinking about it. So yes, when racing stopped, I mean, like it was like things went from 100 mph to like, and I needed that. Like I will say that the first 2, 3, maybe 6 months more, I don't ever give myself the rest that I need. I like to just jump right back into it. But like, I think the 5, 6 months that were just like, man, my mind needs to heal. My body needs to heal. I was tired, just kind of trying to get out of that hole. But it wasn't so much that it took me a while to understand this, but it wasn't so much that I missed the adrenaline junkie. I wasn't like that. I wasn't, I loved racing. I enjoyed racing. I enjoyed what I did, but it wasn't that I craved. I liked to work hard. Of course, I liked to. So, but I think the biggest frustration for me was I wasn't like being challenged anymore. And that was really hard to sit there. I realized there was a lot of things I learned, after racing, and probably more so about myself than through it. But it's a challenge, and I think for me that there was nothing challenging me anymore. And so when I didn't have that, I just felt really depleted, lacking purpose. But I think, it was important not to kind of sit in that and, learn and understand and move forward and apply yourself. And what is that next thing, what are things that you're passionate about? What are things that the skills and the things that you learned and developed along the way to this point in life that you can apply to that next piece, right? And so, I think that was the biggest thing moving forward. And even ultimately too, making sure that I didn't waste that influence and the will to do good, especially with St. Jude, and carrying that forward and what we had started. So I mean, just making sure that we're moving things forward and not getting so caught up in that racing's over. Because a friend, my mechanic Carlos, I say my mechanic, but he's my good friend. He kind of put it to me.
Brian, he's not your mechanic anymore.
Yeah,
just
my
your
mechanic,
friend now.
my mechanic at the time. But Carlos, my good friend, he said something to me one time, and it kind of rung true. It's like you kind of, and again, it's not like losing a loved one, but it's like grieving a loss. You have to go through that point. It's done and it's over, and you got to accept it and move forward. And I think that was the biggest thing, just leaving it in the past and moving forward. Now, have I tried to seek it out and go back? Yes, I have, but I always made sure that I was moving forward, and everything that was put in place after 2017, I wasn't going to throw that away and close the door and all that stuff. So I think that's a long story, but just I was making sure the not being challenged was the toughest thing. For you're not growing, you're not developing, and I think like I always strived on having a goal and trying to achieve something, and so it just without that it was really empty.
So you get into business where it's never-ending challenge. Like you found something that no matter how good it's going, you're going to be challenged no matter what, because you're in business now. But what I like is that obviously you found things to go into business on that were part of your life, part of your passion. Obviously, I mean, I'm doing the same thing right now in life. I found something I'm passionate about, so I'm chasing it. Intense, obviously, that was a big part of your life forever. So of course you're going to get involved in that because you know it, you love it. Coffee, obviously, you've said you're a coffee guy. I'm a coffee snob, big time. Freaking love coffee. So you get into these things that you're obviously passionate about, but then the challenge comes with the business side of things, which again is it's new to you because your racing career was a business, but it was reliant on you performing on Saturday nights and Saturday during the day. Now it's 24/7. So take me through some of these challenges you're facing now in the business world. Again, falling back on your passion, which makes it fun, but at the same time, it's still pretty stressful when you're chasing business.
Yeah, it's super challenging for sure. There was a couple things, and after racing, of course, business, that was the one thing I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to jump into, or, start one day, was my own business. Now I've invested in other business, been a part of other stuff, but like the one thing that I kind of look forward to is starting my own. And so after racing, I actually, a good friend of mine, Mark Blackwell, really was super helpful in kind of helping me in the business world, and I did some studying, I did some online courses, and just learning more about business and managerial accounting and all this stuff. So I think it was good for me that I took that break from racing, and then, took the time to learn and understand. And even with the RD Coffee now, it's like, I wasn't ready right after racing to jump right in and start that. I had to learn more, I had to develop, I had to understand more about the sourcing and the roasting process and all that stuff. So, and, a big thing that I've always kind of stuck to, it's like, and people have told me this from the past, it's like, usually, move forward with things that you're passionate about. So, because you'll seek it out, you'll stay with it. When it gets hard, you're going to see it out because you care, you want to keep moving forward. So, I thought it was a perfect fit, and I knew early on that I wanted to be in the coffee industry. So when the time came, and a couple things kind of didn't come together in 2020. Some things came to a close that left me at a point that I was like, you know what? I've been sitting on this thing for a while. I've been kind of just hemming and haw. It's time to move forward. And so it worked out great, and that's when we started RD Coffee in June 1st of last year, and it's been awesome ever since. And to your point, yeah, there's been some hard moments, some sleepless nights, and like, what are we doing here? But it's, at the end of the day, it's awesome, and it's an amazing challenge. And now we have a lot of good people involved that's really helping the process.
You talk about the challenges, but it's also worth it. Is it because it's your own? Like you said, you did invest in some businesses, which is, that's great for your financial portfolio, obviously, but you obviously did that first, then this is now your thing. So is that what makes it so much more rewarding, even after a sleepless night? Because I have to imagine that, when you're investing in businesses, you're obviously monitoring and hoping that they're doing well, but it's not on you. And you want this challenge, like you said, you want challenges in life. Now that it relies on you, is that what makes it rewarding even after a sleepless night?
Oh, absolutely. It was a small startup, right? A lot of things that had been involved before, this responsibility was, not solely on me or me at all. It was like, now this thing is completely like, one, jumping into the deep end and learning and understand. It's like your head hurts trying to understand a lot of this stuff and setting it all up and running it. But now, the fact that, like, you don't want to fail, and not that you make, live in fear or anything like that, but it drives you because you want to succeed and do better, and with the end goal in mind, where you want to go with it and take it and everything like that. But absolutely. And it's kind of, when it comes time, are you going to put in the work? And you got to be accountable, you got to be responsible, and you got to make good decisions. And you make mistakes along the way, but you learn from them, and hopefully you minimize the risk.
So you say you got good people around you now, but it was a small startup. Take me through this is the funnest part. It was the funnest part for me. My business, Eagle Grit, started 4 years ago. The naming, the logo, the look, that to me was the funnest part of it all. Just take me through that process when it came time to decide to call it RD. Obviously your initials, when it came time to do the logo, which your logo is sick. Take me through all that stuff, because to me, that's the funnest part. Before all the work and the stress and all that comes in, it's all about the fun. Like, what are we going to call it? What are we going to look like? What is our packaging going to look like? Take me through that part. Did you have influences? Because I know the buck stops with you. You make the decisions, but who helped with some of those ideas and just coming to the conclusion of what you're going to call it and how it was going to look?
Yeah, gosh, from the very beginning, at the basis of it, I had a little sample roaster, and I was sharing it with friends, right? And then it turned one thing to another, and it's like, all right, it's we got some potential here. But yeah, from the point of, I like the fact of called it RD Coffee, just because, like, it was a personal extension of my passion I could share with others. But yeah, then it came time to hiring a designer, the logo, the look. The website development really challenged me, because I'm not really a tech person, but I had a lot of good friends helping out along the way. Every aspect of setting up your entity, right? You got to set up an LLC. That
to me, that was the worst. That was not fun at all. I had a problem. Not that I mean, we got through it fine, but right, that is not as fun. Just the amount of things you got to go through just to even say you're a business, right?
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of work. I had some, thankfully, from the racing days and still working with some really good people. I had some help in that area, so that was good, because that is, when it comes to that stuff, it's that's definitely challenging for me. And to your point, not as fun. But once we kind of got past all that, I had to figure out sourcing of the bags. We had to get templates. We had to put, design the bag. What's the lead times for the bag? Okay, where am I getting the coffee? Is it close? Do we need to get it shipped? There ended up being the warehouse was here in Minneapolis, which worked out cool. But sourcing of the coffee, then the roasting process. Okay, it's like we got drum roasting and we got air roasting. Well, what's the difference of the two? How do I know which one to pick? And doing the research. And so there was just so much that went into it. And I will say, as hard as it was fun. But like when it came time to, okay, we're gonna choose this Peru coffee, right? And we're gonna roast it. This is the profile. Where do we want to stop it? Where, what's the end temp? And if you roast it too long, it'll taste burnt if you don't roast it. So then finding that, and I mean, it's endless. It's like a shock setting, of suspension setting. You can come up with so many combinations. So it's kind of like overload, like how do I handle all this? But we stuck to it. And I mean, you asked my wife, she's like, hey, you need to get some sleep. You need to take a day off from this.
And you're like, I can't, I'm drinking coffee nonstop.
Yeah.
I can't go to sleep.
Yeah. So we were wired, we were tired. It was just like, oh man. But but through the process, I ran it pretty minimal at the beginning stages, because I wanted to make sure it has potential, and I could, right? Because in the initial part, I always thought I was going to open up a cafe or something like that. But with the pandemic, and I was like, in the overhead that it was going to cost, the overhead that costs, I was just thinking, you know what? I actually built out at the time, I built out a really nice roastery in my garage. Like I did it up real nice, real clean. I was doing it all out of there, and just a low probe cost startup. And hey, if it had potential, we'll take it to the next level. And thankfully it did. But yeah, still, so I ran it pretty bare bones, and I took it all upon myself. Where now it's like I've been able to spread the work over, but still oversee all the operations and everything like that.
Which that's a tough part too, right? Because you can't project growth all the way. And what I've learned in business is that you have to grow the right way. It's not all about just skyrocket growth. You actually cause more problems for yourself. So how's that challenge been? Because I know it's successful. It's doing very well. Is that been a challenge too? Because again, you're trying to project like what you have to put in to manage this growth. But if things accelerate quicker than you think, that's when you got it. Now you're sleepless nights again, right? You
Right.
finally feel like you're good. And now you're sleepless nights again because you're trying to figure out how to manage growth. Have you been able to handle that part okay? Because I know it's been successful out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for sure. A good friend of mine, we had a chat. It's like, well, if you grow too fast, too soon, I mean, that could be damaging too. So making sure that I'm, not taking on more than the business can handle. And right away, we focused to direct to consumer online. That was our main business. And since we've outgrown, I mean, I outgrew the garage right away. And so I ended up having to bring on a roasting partner, which has been good. I've been very much so, we had to grow, but what I didn't want to do, and what I don't ever want to do, is sacrifice the quality of, the process. So, and always maintaining the integrity. So with that, I've been able to, with the roasting partner, very much in communication every single day. We get to, talk about different roasts. We talk about every detail. So very much involved, but it was necessary to get to that next point. And long-term, build out a roastery and bring it all back in house is the goal. But yeah, I've only tested some of the markets as far as, we're in 6 dealerships, and we did a test run with some dealers across the country, kind of hit all the corners in the middle, and seeing how that goes. But we're not quite ready just yet to, take on the wholesale accounts, and, really, and we just want to grow at a good pace, and, organically grow, and we'll get to that point. But
it's the hardest part. It's tempting, right? I mean, for my business right now, I've been approached by a huge chain of stores that, I mean, honestly, I'm having to turn it down because there's no way we could handle what's coming. And it's like, part of me wants to just take the bite But then it's like, you know what, if they're interested now, they'll be interested in a couple of years when I'm able to take on that, because you don't want to put too much into in one style. Like you said, you have your online side, you'll get into the wholesale, get into distribution. But if you hit one thing too hard, then you're reliant on it. And I'm terrified to take too big of a bite because I don't know if I can chew it. And I guess, how do you handle that decision when it comes, when all of a sudden, you know, a box store is going to hit you up and be like, we want to do 100 times more than you've ever done. And you're like, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like, how do you handle something like that? Because too much growth can bury a company. It happens all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think making sure that we have the infrastructure in place, right, and the capital to do something like that, you know, and making sure we have the right people in place to manage those areas. I think, you know, my young self would have said, "Oh, great, a wholesale accounts. Let's bring them all on board, right? Like, let's do it." But like, the fact of the matter is, and how much work that is, and how much to build out that network. It's a lot of man hours, it's a lot of labor, it's a lot going on there, it's a lot of logistics. So just making sure that we're set up properly in the infrastructure to be able to expand in that direction, and maybe be able to take on more than we're anticipating. But you know, those are just those are good problems, but making sure that you're not you know, overloading everything as well.
Big decisions. I mean, that's big complicated decisions. But like you said, if you have the infrastructure in place, then it's a little bit easier to take a chance when you know you got, especially like you said, the right people that have that experience around you that can guide you through not only the bad times, but the good times are almost scarier than the bad times. That's just, you got to have the right people around you. How involved are you with like the profit loss, the balance sheet? Are you looking at that and going like, yeah or no? Or like, for me, it's daily. I live on the profit loss sheet. I live on the balance sheet, because I feel like if you take a week off of it, it's like the ship could steer in a direction that you don't know it's coming. So are you pretty heavily involved in that part?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And with the, you know, bearing in mind that, heck, we're still early on, you know, we've invested a lot up front, but, you know, in the long term, where, you know, it takes 2 or 3 years to kind of become profitable. Thankfully, we're doing better than that. But it is a little bit addicting, you know, to keep an eye on it, to watch it, but you have to, you know, you have to manage it, keep an eye on things and watching where everything's at. And, you know, that's the area of the business I probably spend a lot of time in, just because I don't want it to ever catch me off guard, and making sure that I'm making the right decisions. You know, it's like, heck, if we're going to bring on more products, more merchandise, or whatever that is, and all that money is going to be tied up in inventory, or how we're going to go about that. I mean, I want to make sure that the cash flow is you know, moving in the right direction. And that, I think, always, you know, I want to make sure I'm never looking at this like what's best for me, because it's not about me. It's like what's always best for the business, you know, and making sure that that's solely the focus. So but never losing sight of the vision and the mission and everything like that.
You know, you have this triangle, right, where you have your inventory, which turns into sales. So now you have like your accounts receivable, which then turns into cash, right? So, and the cash buys more inventory. That's the biggest thing that I've had to learn, is just managing the triangle, because if any one of those gets out of whack, it might take a month or two to recover out of that. So if, like, again, too much growth, all of a sudden your inventory's gone, your accounts receivable is through the roof, you have no cash. So how am I going to buy more? Managing that has been the hardest part for me, and just learning the formula of when to grow, how to grow, and to make sure you don't kind of, again, bite off more than you can chew. I have to imagine, again, with you having a lot of success out of the gate, there's probably a month or two where it was like, whoa, my triangle's a little goofy. I gotta get this thing right. Is it been like that for you too, where you're just kind of keeping those things all where they need to be and not letting one get too depleted, and not get one too overloaded?
Yeah. I would say you know, I buy a lot of as far as the inventory goes, you know, knowing where that's at and being prepared for the orders, right? But also, so for me, it's you know, the monthly cycle, you know, watching it drop, right? You know, watching the bank, you know, watching the funds drop, right, in the month. But then you know, then obviously the orders come in. I mean, I manage everything properly, you know, making sure that we're buying things ahead of time. That way it's like, okay, I know where I'm at here. But then, you know, as the orders come in, you know, I've already, you know, purchased my inventory and everything like that, know where I'm stand, you know, paid off all my services. Okay, this is what we need to do over the month to become profitable, and then watching that inflection point.
It's it's like a scary real life video game, man. It's fun. Did you learn a lot about this stuff with Intense too? Because I know that was like right out of the gate for you. You were involved with those guys. Did you learn from them? Because again, that was more of an investment. You weren't as hands-on, but did you have a chance to learn that world a little bit and apply that to what you're doing with RD Coffee?
Absolutely. And I'm still learning. I think the investment with Intense, one, really believing in the company. Obviously, my background in fitness and biking and cycling has always been a passion of mine. So it was a natural fit. But I really believed in the brand, but also the people involved with that. They're involved with Intense are just really solid people. But a part of, for me, it was also an investment. It was an investment, but it was also a chance to learn and understand the world of business, and more something I could sit in on the board meetings and like just listen, just purely listen, purely understand, and just try to learn and develop, and an investment into my business education too, just a firsthand experience. So for me, that's been amazing, and really thankful they let me sit in and just be a sponge, really. And yes, I will say a lot of it has kind of helped me with my side of the RD Coffee business too. I mean, like bikes and dealing with inventory and working capital, and demand and supply. It's just every aspect of it, of course, and even down to the the financials.
And you said you took some online classes, and that's great because it's general, but I have to imagine the hands-on, being in those meetings, you probably learned more than you could in a classroom, because it wasn't examples, it was real. It was like, this is really happening. I mean, how much more were you able to take in those board meetings than you even, and of course the classroom is good, the online, all that stuff's great because it gives you the general, but that hands-on real life business experience, I mean, it's pretty exhilarating, right? Especially with a company like that that's had a lot of success.
Yeah, that's, of course, you hit it on the nail. I think you can keep developing, and I always want to continue my education, of course, but being able to firsthand experiences, like, that's, to me, that's the environments that I really thrive in. Like, this is real, this is happening, this is legit, this is, it's like getting an MBA course. It's just, it's just, you're there, you're living it, you're seeing it, and it's real. And so to me, like, I just find it fascinating. And those are just areas from that over my life. Like, I just, like, those are the environments that I feel like I thrive in learning and understanding. Like, so it's a really good position to be in, for sure. And really thankful they let me do that.
I want to talk about St. Jude real quickly, and then I got one final moto question for you. It's a good one that I got brewing. So St. Jude, obviously, dude, it's super cool that their involvement. I mean, I love it because on Race Day Live, we're always pushing, text super to 785-833. I always forget the numbers because.
Yeah, me too.
You know how it goes with your brain. My filing cabinet is like exploding. But yeah, text super to 785-833, which is cool because it's so simple for people. But tell me about that relationship and just where it's gone now. Because when you think about the beginning, and it was a personal thing for you more than anything. But then you see what it's done in Supercross and how much our whole community is just attached to it. And now, like, we're intimately involved with it. Did you ever think it was going to get like this when you got us all involved and you kind of put this relationship together? I mean, obviously you probably hoped it would, but did you think it would be this involved?
No, I hoped it would, just like you said. I mean, that was my hope. First and foremost, I don't want to pretend to take credit for any of this by any means. Like, but from the very beginning, just the goal was to do a ride, a charity bike ride, and that was held here in Minnesota. That's right after Millville, and that's kind of was the start. And it was really responsive, and just to see the local community, the moto industry, kind of like, if some of the people were at the race who could, in Minnesota, they could attend, and the cyclists and everything, and it was really positive. We raised a lot of money, and so we did that for a couple years, and then it was actually Dave Prater who reached out and said, hey, whatever we can do to kind of get involved, and that conversation kind of sparked something, and then that kind of got up the ladder, and gosh, what was it, 18, I believe it was the first year. Was it that the partnership with Feld and St. Jude? And I remember, we flew down there, and Feld flew down to the hospital, and which is really being able to go to the hospital and not just see where your money's going to, but like seeing it firsthand. It is the most life-changing experience, and you'll do anything to get behind that place. It's just amazing. But it was really amazing. So we all flew down there, myself, the crew from Feld, obviously St. Jude was there. They gave us a tour of the hospital and we met, and that's when everything kind of started to develop. And it was so cool just to see it. My hope was that it would get into the moto scene, and then that we could keep doing more good. But I never imagined Feld would be, you know, the Supercross promoters of Supercross and Monster Jam. Like, I never imagined Feld would partner with St. Jude. I just was hoping that, like, we could get it into the motocross community and we'd keep support, you know, raising money for the kids. But the fact that they jumped on board, I mean, this thing has, you know, been able to be more successful, 10, 20, 30 times more successful just because of their help and their influence and what they can do. So yeah, it's just been amazing. And it's cool to see, you know, for something in a world like you know, Daniel, like, it's so results driven, like where are we at? I think this just brings our community together. It's perspective. It's what's important. We're blessed to get to do what we do for a living. I mean, you get to race a dirt bike for a living, right? I mean, and, you know, not to mention all the other jobs you get to, it's like, it's hard to call it a job because it is so much fun, but the fact that we can do good and, you know, and just utilize that and being able to, you know, what's important in life. And these are the things that are going to last, not, you know, they're not going to always remember your championships. We're helping save kids' lives. I mean, there's nothing, you know, more important like than that. So it's just amazing to see where it's gone. And I do believe it's going to continue to grow and do better. And yeah.
I love it. I was on my flight here to Daytona yesterday, and I'm on, you know, the app watching live TV, and I'm on the NFL Network because that's where I live most of the time, is on NFL Network. And they're talking about St. Jude, and they're doing like the 40 where you can run your own 40.
Yeah.
And so they're seeing them but I don't know. It's weird because when I see St. Jude involved in anything else, I get like this feeling like, yeah, we are too. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
it's so weird because it feels personal now. Even when I see it in other sports or even a commercial comes on, I just look at it different because, again, for me to be on Race Day Live and asking people to donate and help, I feel like I'm a part of it now too. So when I see it anywhere else, I'm like, it's like a win. I don't know. It was weird though. Yesterday on the flight, I was like, yeah, you know, and because I hadn't seen it on there yet. So it's just cool to see, again, how it's grown with us, but how they're connecting in so many different ways. And when you see that, you have to imagine it's having an impact and it's working, because you don't do things like that if it's not working. So them doing that tells me it really is impactful, and this is working and it's making a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, all the money they're raising, all the research they're doing. I mean, the fact that the parents don't have to, you know, they help the families along the way, and who have a child going through something. I mean, I can't imagine, right? And they take all the fun, they completely take that burden off of them. They, you know, the fact that when they, you know, find a cure, they share it with the world. That is something I love. The fact that they share it and they don't try to, you know, hold it to this is our patent or something like that. Like, they share it freely with the world. It goes to save thousands of other kids in life. And I just think that's the way it should be. And I just love that about that organization, St. Jude.
I told you that on Race Day Live. I had someone hit me up on Instagram and say that they weren't at St. Jude, but they were at a hospital that was using St. Jude's research to help them. They had a child with leukemia. And I was like, to me, that's cool. Like you said, it's not a business for them where it's like, well, we develop it. It's like, no, we developed this and we'll give it to everybody, which there's a real purpose behind what they do. And I love that. I'm gonna sneak in one last question for you. I know you still ride, obviously not as much, but when you do ride, what thrill are you getting on the bike? Because you went so many years where it was so calculated and technical, and you're trying to get better because you're trying to win. And if I can improve my corners or when you ride now, like, what do you feel? Like, what do you feel when you're on the bike right now? Do you still get a little like racy in the brain, or is it just the feeling of a dirt bike and flying through the air? I'm just curious of where your brain is at right now when you're on a dirt bike.
Yeah, you know, you'd probably laugh, but of course, all those things are fun, right? Yeah, you're flying through there, but when I'm on a dirt bike, just because, like, something, oh, you can go slower now. Well, no, I don't like to go slower because I feel like I'm gonna get more injured if I go slower because I'm not used to that, right? But like, I honestly, every time I'm on the track, I set a goal just to keep myself afloat. I do, and I really enjoyed the practice. The one thing I enjoyed about racing is practicing, and at the practice track, practice track. And then, going against the clock, of course, trying to get your time. So I always like to go out there and just have the stopwatch, because to me, it keeps me focused. If I know how many laps I'm going to do or how much time I'm going to be out there. And to me, it's just safe, because I not that I go overboard and push it, but I enjoy like trying to beat my time and just trying to be consistent. Like that was a fun game for me, really. I mean, when you look at it, it was kind of a game, but it's like you try to get better and better, and how can I hit this corner, and just try to clean everything up. So when I'm out there, I do still have a goal. It's not like, oh, this is so fun, I'm jumping through the air. It's like I enjoyed that part of it. I really did. But yeah, so I just try to keep focused, because at the end of the day, yeah, we're going fast. It's not a game. It's not I say it was a game, but it's not a game. You gotta be focused. You gotta be smart, and it's still a 450 that can, Daniel, can put you.
You gotta respect it. You still gotta respect it.
Yeah, and every time we've been humbled so many times. You ever know you're at a track, you're like, oh, you get a little bit, chest puffs out, like check me out type of deal. It always backfires, So I always try to keep the humble, like, just be smart, ride the bike, don't do anything stupid. Who cares what anybody thinks,
Yeah, you feel good until like some 15-year-old kid on a 125 goes blowing by you, and you're like,
yeah,
what happened? What's going on here?
Get an ego reducer.
Yeah. Hey, do you ever, last question, do you ever pull off, grab the screwdriver, Carlos?
Oh, I made some.
I'm having some problems here. What do I do? I can't get my corn. What do I do, Carlos? He's like, Ryan, I'm with Cooper right now. It's Saturday in Houston. We're trying to write. Carlos, I need to know right now. I need to change something. Yeah. Does that still happen?
Yeah, I said, I don't care. Send me a shot. You need to send me. No. I do make some phone calls, because anybody who knows me, as far as working with me, I mean, I was Mr. Millimeter. It's like, 1 millimeter off here, I can feel it. And so, yeah, I'm always making changes to the bike. Yeah. Got to call up my resources, and yeah, make sure it feels good out there.
That's hilarious. Well, Ryan, thanks for coming on Beyond the Track again. I'm fascinated by everything that you're doing. And again, it goes back to kind of the original thought, which is challenges, right? If you're not being challenged, I don't feel like you're living all the way. For me, it's the same thing. When life slows down, I don't feel right. So I have to imagine you're going through it too. And obviously, in all the ventures that you're doing, you're staying active, you're staying challenged. And I love to hear that. So thanks for coming on the show with me. And I'm guessing I'll probably see you here soon.
I hope so. Appreciate it, Daniel. Thanks for the time.